afternoon to all present here. Let's welcome our next resource person, Dr. B.M. Pandey sir, Head Department of Law, Tripura Central University, Tripura. So please welcome our next resource person, Dr. B.M. Pandey, Head Department of Law, Tripura University. It is a central university in the state, sorry, in Tripura. And his topic is changing dynamics of teaching pedagogy in the light of COVID-19. Changing dynamics of teaching pedagogy in the light of COVID-19. So I request you, sir, you can start your session.
Thank you for bearing with me, and thank you very much for bearing all the problems of the online lecture. At the very onset, I just extend my heartiest thanks to the organizer for organizing this faculty enrichment program on higher education with COVID-19, the challenges and prospects under the aegis of IQAC of KBO Women's College. And thank you for giving me the opportunity also to be the part of this. And I want, with the coordinator, I need a permission that can the participants or the faculty members or anyone who's in the expert panel be allowed to come in between with the queries so that we can take up the queries also, because it is very difficult to hold on queries for so long at the end of the program. Sometimes you get fatigued with that. So if you kindly permit me, then we can take up the queries also.
No problem, sir, as you wish.
so
No problem, no
thank
issues.
you very much. Since I'm connected with the phone, therefore it is my screen has a very limited resolution. So I'll request the participants whosoever have a query or wants to say anything on the topic, they can come in between and we can have a discussion rather than a one way of lecture mode of things, because basically it is a faculty enrichment program where we both can be enriched with that. So thank you very much for making me a part of this distinguished panel and giving me the opportunity to connect to the some prominent faculty members as well as the researcher scholars. I hope the researcher scholars are also part of this faculty enrichment program, and thank you very much. In order to maintain the brevity of the things that we are discussing, I am just focusing and keeping my lecture confined to 5 areas, and which is what are the ideals of the higher education institutions. Then the second is how COVID-19 has impacted those ideals or the objectives of the higher education, and then what changes are the dynamics, the changing dynamics that the topic is, what changes it has brought into the teaching pedagogy in higher education, what are the opportunities that this COVID-19 has given in light of this change that we are talking about, and lastly the challenges that is emerging because of this. One of the challenges that we have saw that for the last 10 to 15 minutes we have been trying to connect and we are not able to be, and then we have to take the support of another online mechanism of connecting it to the phone. As far as the ideals of the higher education institution is concerned, what is the main objective of the higher education system? The main objective of higher education system is enhancement of knowledge. Enhancement of knowledge which results in the advancement of mankind. It is the knowledge through which enhanced knowledge which gives you an ample opportunity for your careers, to improve your quality of life. This enhancement of knowledge ultimately and consequently results into the improvement of the lives of the people, evolution of the society, culture and all that. This is the main objective of higher education. But this is possible only when the universities, higher education institutions are running on their set ideas and mottos. In the ideal academic setting, if you look at the ideal academic setting, then the researcher has the freedom to pursue all ideas, those that are familiar, those that are novel, those that are probable, and those that are not probable, not so probable, those that which are popular and those which are not so popular. he has the freedom to choose. And with this search for the truth, his ability to search for the truth, which is equipped with the knowledge that he gets it from the teaching learning process, which is imparted in a classroom setup of teaching before COVID-19, this is what the setup was. And in ideal setup, equipped with the teaching learning process, with the knowledge, he searched for the truth, which enhances his knowledge, his advancement, and ultimately with this, equipped with the knowledge, a creativity and innovation is pursued, and with this creativity, you challenge the existing systems of belief for the betterment of life and for the betterment of the society. If in the Bavarian thought, the it is, we can say that it is a journey from traditional responses to rational legal response. Marx has also emphasized on the same thing, that equipped with the knowledge, when you will know in his historical materialism, when he is writing, he said that the knowledge will make you equipped with and create a progressive force which will react to the reactionary forces, and at one time the reactionary forces will be replaced by these progressive forces. So this is one of the major objectives in the normal course of things of higher education. The second is these meritocracy of higher education, the meritocracy ideals of higher education are ingrained in giving equal opportunity to the students, equal opportunity of learning, equal opportunity of research, and equal opportunity of participating in co-curricular activities. In a way, you go and pursue for your inclusiveness. However, the spread of the COVID-19 has affected adversely to these ideals of enhancement of learning, these ideals of uh, giving equal opportunity, and these ideals of meritocracy that we are talking about. The research has been adversely hampered, particularly since the COVID has hampered your traveling, both national and international. So the field research has adversely been affected. The field research is adversely affected. It has affected adversely to the economy. I'm not digressing my discussion with what has happened to the economy, because that is the impact of economy is coming to the higher education, but we are not going into details how it has adversely affected the economy. So I'm just restricting myself to what is the impact of adversely affecting the economy on higher education, rather than going in detail on how it is affecting the higher education economy. So the funding agencies have adversely been affected. Therefore, there is squeeze of funds for research. Labs are closed. There's practically nothing going on in the labs, as the students are not there in the university. And through online process, it is difficult to carry on the research through online on labs, or virtual lab is practically, till date, we have not devised any methodology by which virtual labs can be operated. Uh, it is one of the challenges that has to be taken into it, and we will discuss all these in the challenges that we have clubbed in a different structure. Then, if you look into the previous scholars has also talked about the enrollment ratio and all that. The enrollment ratio is another area where the COVID-19 has adversely affected, and enrollment ratio is going into a decline. And as I have said, that with the enhancement of knowledge, what is the prospect of enhancement of knowledge is that you get an opportunity of getting a good career and ultimately improving your quality of life. But if you look into the data of Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, which says that before March, the unemployment rate was 8.4%. It has reached to 23% in April. And till today, the data is somewhere around 35% of unemployment. So even though if you have knowledge, it is a difficulty of getting the jobs and employment, then what the changes it is producing? Is the changes, this is the things that is impacting, but what are the changes that it is COVID-19 is producing, particularly in teaching learning, and how adversely, if it is affecting the research, then what are the methods of getting out of it? So in teaching learning, and of course the unemployment that is growing up, then what are the other ways of getting into the process of moving to a better career and improving, consequently improving your quality of life? In teaching learning, we are seeing that as we are holding this seminar on online process, this faculty enrichment program through online process, similar, we are now forced to move towards distant learning process. We do not have a choice. Either we can have no education or online education. This is what the COVID has done to us. So we are forced to take up this online process. And in the online process, the difficulty is that the technological infrastructure, the most of the government institutions have lack of technological infrastructure, and the infrastructure that is available is mostly in the private hands. Second, the issue is coming up is competency of using the technology. Majority of the population of teaching population that we are talking about, they are not very competent with this technological know-how. That is also hampering this use of. And the third challenge is the unequal distribution of these resources. Most of the cities are connected with fiber optics and all that, but what about the rural areas? They are not so connected with fiber optics. There is an internet issues. There are other problems that is coming up. So unevenly, the resources are very unevenly distributed. The students, the stakeholders are not getting an opportunity of getting a level playing field. So it is also a challenge how to move it. But nevertheless, we have started with the online process. People have to get back and learn the skill, the competency. First we have to focus on the competency people have to come up with. All those who are involved in higher education teaching, they have to come up with the skills of online teaching. Otherwise, in the coming years, probably this disadvantage will perish them. So it is a forced learning, whether you like it or you don't like it, but you have to learn it. As if you are amputated, while you have one leg amputated, and then you have to learn how to walk on a steel leg. This is absolutely the same. We cannot say that because whatever you are witnessing during the COVID time, what will happen? What will happen after COVID? How the things will change? Is something very new is coming in the post-COVID era? No, nothing new will come. Whatsoever is going on during this period, it will either enhance, reinforce, and come back. And nothing new will come. So what is happening? It's online teaching processes, online videos, online study materials that is being distributed to the students. So all this will further reinforce. That means there will be heavy investment in the technological infrastructure, because this is what we have learned during the COVID, that we have not invested as much as we should have in the technological. So there will be heavy investment in the technological sector, and probably the internet speed will increase, and probably we will be able to connect the rest of the remaining areas, that the Prime Minister also said in the previous 15th August speech, that we will be connecting with the fiber optics more rural areas. Also, probably we will be giving a more level playing field in the coming days. So these are going to happen, and more emphasis on, rather than lecture method, more emphasis on the use of internet technology will be there. More use on this artificial technology in classroom teaching, even if everything becomes normal and students start coming up to the university. I think that that we have to now move from a lecture method to a mixed method of uh, use of internet as well as a lecture method, rather than only on lecture method or blackboard teaching. We have to use the smart board more often than not for imparting our lectures and imparting our knowledge, and for the dissemination of knowledge. This is going to come in the coming areas. What else probably will take place? The dimensions of research has changed. Now the more focus areas for the research probably would be the health infrastructure, the health related environment, and the more in the medicine, more with the, what Dakim said, that of social solidarity will also come into picture. More about society, more about what we are more now hearing is localization, more about localization, enhancement of local cultures, religious belief, customary things that are going to be more focus of the new research that will be coming. Then coming to this topic of unemployment, I think what Gandhi has said about Nai Talim, and he has discussed long back about Nai Talim. Then he emphasizes on 3H, that is head, hand, and heart. Said the knowledge that is imparted must be practiced, and people must, those to whom the target area, to whom the knowledge is imparted, he must have the feeling, and he must have the interest in that. So you have to give him the choice of choosing, and that is what the new education policy that has been announced recently is also catering to. Students are given the choice of what they want to read, along with the vocational training. So the new education probably will be focusing more on the skill equipment, more on the skill development, more of the choice of the, rather than compulsion, so that you have to read this only. Now the student of science can also pursue the photography or any other subject of the art or history or anything that he wishes to read. So this is what the COVID has forced us to think upon it. And already the government as well as the country is taking care of it. But then again, another thing is about employment. You have seen that many migrant laborers have come back to their native places, and all this in unemployment already. I have mentioned the data that it is around somewhere around 35% till date. It is the data. So how this unemployment issue can also be tackled through the higher education? What is the process of tackling this? Then again, we have to go back to what Gandhi dreamed about, Gram Swaraj. self-sufficiency of villages that Marx has talked about in his mode of production. And when he was writing the mode of production and Asiatic mode of production, then he in a Asiatic mode of production, he dedicated one chapter to India, and he said that it is difficult to bring revolution in India because there is no alienation at all. Why there is no alienation? And since we are, I'm discussing this topic in Hazaribagh, which is earlier part of the Bihar, and then eastern part of UP, we have one system that is called Jajmani system. We followed the Jajmani system for a very long period of time, but now the Jajmani system is no longer, it has withered away. I mean, from most of the villages, that Jajmani system has made the villages self-sufficient villages. Again, there is an emphasis on localization. Localization is nothing but use of the local resources, making the local areas self-sufficient. So the curriculum of higher education has to also undergo a sea change in including the needs and the customary practices of the local areas. We cannot make a curriculum sitting in Delhi and then preparing a curriculum that will be uniformly distributed across all higher education, and all higher education will follow that curriculum as we have been doing for the last 70 years. We have to come up with a curriculum that is catering to the needs of the locals and local practices, local requirement, and local indigenous industrial or cottage, whether it is cottage, small or medium scale industry, the curriculum has to redevise. And this probably is also being reflected in the new education policy, that local development of the curriculum has to be seen. When they are also talking about the use of the mother tongue more in teaching in the higher education. So these are the changes that the higher education system is going to undergo in post-COVID system. Teaching pedagogy, as far as teaching pedagogy is concerned, we have already discussed that since it is a mechanism by which online teaching is more prominently stressed through, emphasized, and passed on, because face-to-face teaching is not possible. And my earlier speaker was also referring to the online courses, and the enrollment ratio in the online courses is consequently increasing. The only reason for increasing of online enrollment ratio of online courses is that the COVID has forced us and made us realize that face-to-face and classroom teaching, the time has come then that it has to be changed. It has to change, and online courses, the MOOCs, the SWAYAM portals, which till date we have not given much importance to it. Most of the higher education institutions has not given much importance. Has to be given much importance, and accordingly, credit transfer system has to be made. And credit transfer, the new education policy talks about credit transfer system, but we still have to devise a foolproof mechanism of how the credit transfer will take place, and what are the consequences of credit transfer, and how the different credits can be given, and how even if you are in the new education policy, you are allowing somebody to have the freedom of deregistering and registering himself at his own will, then how the credit system will be calculated. Because we are in an era of choice-based credit system. So the credit transfer system has to be redeveloped, reassessed, and remanaged according to the needs of the locality and to the areas that we are catering to. It is one of the issues that has to be taken up when we are talking about the distance learning or online process of learning or using of technology. As far as infrastructure is concerned, the online, I think the majority of the higher education system in the government sector need to equip themselves with online teaching process. We have very poor infrastructure as far as we are concerned with in the educational system in higher university as a higher education institution, a very poor infrastructure. But let's hope that the government will not leave it to the university to augment the resources for creating this infrastructure, rather than the government with the new education policy, as they are emphasizing on making the this higher education or university self-sufficient. They will come up with some kind of funding, and the higher education system will not become more costly, because investment in another the drawback is that the investment in higher education system, in particularly in technology, will also call for a if you are not helping the universities and the higher education system with the funding, then probably the education will become more costly. And the dream of universalization of education will become more distant than what it is today. Yeah, this COVID is giving you an opportunity of realization of this dream of universalization of education, because through online teaching, majority you can cover up, you are not restricting yourself to 50, 60 or to 40 students in a classroom, but you can accommodate more than 100 students at one time. You can have resources online which probably is cheaper, but for that you need an infrastructure to create. For that you need the infrastructure to connect to each and every corners of this country. You need to have a good internet speed, and all this requires investment, and investment has a cost. This cost has, who will bear this cost? That is one important thing, and that will decide whether we are moving towards universalization of education by making it inclusive for all sections of society, every marginalized section of the society, every affected section of the society, or we are making it very exclusive system of education where the affluents can have only say in the education system. This is probably another thing that has to be seen with the passage of time. But I hope that the present day government and the coming government will, if there is a change in the government, then the every government whosoever come will keep in mind that we have promised for universalization of education in our constitution, in our fundamental rights, where we have come up with fundamental rights of 21A, where we have emphasized for the universalization of education, and universalization of education can be achieved through this technological upgradation that COVID has given to you the opportunity. We hope that the government will listen to it. Thirdly, then is what is the funding for the research? As the economy is under a crisis, then how the funds should be managed? And since our higher education system is also in the coming years is going to be under change, UGC to be replaced with another body, and the funding agencies has to be the educational institution and the universities are entering into a agreement that some portion of their funds have to be managed by themselves. Then the fees and all that, they will undergo a sea change. Subsidized education probably will not be the motto of this higher education. Probably the education is going to be costed. This has to be seen, and more so in the light of COVID. As we are more emphasizing on the online process of teaching, the use of technology, and covering more of the areas, more catering to the more section of the people. This is how we can, as I have also said, that we can cater more with the online process. But then it comes with some cost, and the disadvantage of online is the cyber crimes also. We already have heard, we already have news coming up that the Vulgar comments are coming when when the teachers are taking classes. The students are not reacting. I do not know how many people who are connected through this faculty enrichment program or who have registered themselves in this faculty enrichment programs are actually listening. We can put a login and then mute our microphone as well as the camera, and then we can sleep. We do not have to listen what is going on, and nobody can force us. There is no mechanism by which we can enforce that you have to listen, or you have to be attentive, or you have to take an interest into the discussion. And sometimes it becomes difficult for discussion also, because if everybody opens up and unmute their mic at one time, then probably you will not be able to hear what the other person is saying. So it is difficult for everyone to have discussion, and we are not encouraging the discussion through online process also. That is also the drawback. Whosoever the speaker is coming and giving the lecture, he says, okay, okay, fine, we will take up the question at the last. So the discussion method of teaching, the discussion case study method of teaching probably is dying down in this online process. And that is where we have to emphasize that this method of teaching should not die. People should be encouraged to have discussion rather than a monologuous conversation. A monologue, we have to encourage the dialogue between the stakeholders and the resource person. That is where either the technology has to develop, or we have to devise something by which we can achieve this objective of online teaching learning process, and we can cater to the ideals of dissemination of knowledge in both the process and enrichment of knowledge, as the faculty development program is also of enrichment of knowledge, and enrichment of knowledge is a two-way process. It is not one-way process. I also get enriched by interacting, and you will also get enriched by interacting. We cannot say that I am enriched and you have to be. I'm making you enrich. This is not exactly the motto and ideals of any of the higher education. So whenever we are in the higher education, we always call ourselves as a student, primarily because we keep on learning each and every day from our students also. The faculty members keep on learning from the students. Students always come up with new idea of things. As Marx has said, that it is the progressive ideas that changes the society. It is the new ideas, energetic ideas, the new generation that will come up. They have to be encouraged to ask questions. They have to be encouraged to enter into a discussion method. The online process, in this online teaching process, somewhere we are not emphasizing on that. This is one of the major drawbacks. One, I have already said, that probably the people are not listening to you. They just log in and they do not care whether this how long the class is going on, what topic is being taught. So the idea of dissemination of knowledge is also not there. Third is the crime that is taking place, the vulgarity, the comments, the other cybercrime. And fourth is how to keep for parents, how to keep a tap on small children whom you are providing the mobile, and then they are probably, in the name of attending the online classes, they are engaged in online play, playing the games, online games, and playing the online games. All the students of a class are playing online games among themselves. Internet is available, good speed of internet is available. They are playing games. 5 or 6 students making a group and playing online games. So this is another issue, both for the parents as well as for a higher education system, to how to keep a check over it. Third is assessment process. Fifth is assessment process. How to make an assessment of how much this teaching learning process has actually helped the students through online teaching, how it is actually helping the people. And there we still have not devised, how this assessment should take place. We, during the time of COVID, we have waived off the assessment of our the first semester, third semester, and all that. Only the final year examination, we are talking about assessing the final semesters. On that also, we have a controversy where because why there is a controversy whether final year assessment should take place or not. The controversy is primarily because we do not have a foolproof mechanism of conducting an online assessment process. With the rise in the cases of COVID, yes, of course, the parents as well as the people, the stakeholders are afraid of giving an offline examination, and it's a very genuine fear. Where we cannot blame them also, but where we are lacking in developing a foolproof online assessment process, which we have not developed. And that is why the matter is before the Supreme Court. And for every other matter, the Supreme Court has become an adjudicator these days, and the Supreme Court will decide. But I think the assessment is one of the areas that needs to be discussed, and that is another more challenges of this post-COVID system of education. These are some challenges, and then online frauds, cyber crimes. We do not have any law. The law that we are talking about is more dealing within the IT Act and all that. For cyber crimes, we have to come up with a specialized law, and since our dependency is becoming more and more on online processes, therefore it becomes more imperative for this country, for the government, to come up with a improved version of separate cyber laws, catering to the needs of the present day. The most of the developed countries have come up with a very refined cyber law, as America has come, European Unions have come. We have to also develop a cyber law before we switch on fully to the online process. And we do not have any choice. We are forced. As I have said, you have a choice between no education or online education nowadays. So you do not have a choice of holding you back. Okay, fine, I will do it after 10 years. No, you do not. You are forced to do it right now. And therefore, you are also forced to come up with the subsequent laws that are required. And the government, the enforcement agencies have to come up with the law. They cannot leave it for future. Okay, fine, let's pursue it. Similarly, the assessment process has to be come up. They have to come up with the assessment process. They have to come up with a foolproof of credit transfer system, and then only we can fight with and we can stand on our feet in the post-COVID era. Because in post-COVID era, all these are the challenges that we have, 6 or 7 challenges that I could, with my limited knowledge, identify that they are coming. With this, I'm just holding myself back. And if you have any queries, then we can have a discussion on that. Hello.
Please ask your queries. कोई भी discussion करना है आप लोगों को तो? Participants, any one of you? सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है
जी मैम।
थोड़ा सा तो टेक्निकल है। मैं देखती हूँ कि जैसे मेडिक्लेम्स हैं या कोई भी ऐसे कहीं का मेल के थ्रू जो हमें इंफॉर्मेशन आती है, बहुत फ्रॉड कॉल्स आते हैं। हाँ। तो हम लोग कैसे जज कर सकते हैं कि कौन एक्चुअल है और कौन नहीं है? इवन मेल के थ्रू, फोन के थ्रू,
मैडम ये आपने पहले ही ये मुझे थोड़ी सी राहत दे दी ये कह के कि ये टेक्निकल क्वेश्चन है, तो इससे अगर मैं कुछ गलत भी कहूँगा
नहीं
तो आई
नहीं
एम
नहीं।
स्केट विद इट. ओके, नाउ आंसरिंग दिस, नो you cannot, it is difficult. Even the best of the persons and the genius also fails at times. And if you look into the crimes that is happening, cyber crimes and fraud and online frauds and everything is happening, even the best of the intelligent person is duped with the money and everything. ठीक है, तो उसमें आप आइडेंटिफाई करना बहुत मुश्किल है, क्योंकि जो जो ये सब फ्रॉड कर रहे हैं वो भी उस टेक्नोलॉजी से वेल वर्स्ड हैं, और वो उसके नए नए, आप जितने भी आप हम लोग सिक्योरिटी चेक्स लगाते हैं, बैंक्स लगाते हैं, सारे हम सब कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसका तोड़ वो निकालते हैं बिकॉज दे आर बीइंग पेड एंड देयर लिवलीहुड इज प्राइमरली ऑन दैट, कि इफ दे कैन गेट समथिंग बेटर देन दैट, और वो करेंगे, इसीलिए साइबर हैकिंग भी हो रही है. आप इसे रोक नहीं सकते, लेकिन अगर मान लीजिए कि आप इसे रोक नहीं सकते तो आप इसको कम तो कर सकते हैं. कम करने का प्रोसेस क्या होगा? हमने आज 73 इयर्स हो गए, हम आज़ाद हुए, हम क्या क्राइम को इस सोसाइटी से पूरी तरह से हटा पाए हैं? क्राइम फ्री सोसाइटी का क्रिएशन नहीं कर पाए हैं. हम क्राइम फ्री सोसाइटी कभी नहीं बना सकते. यही हम साइबर में भी देखेंगे, हम साइबर क्राइम फ्री नहीं कर सकते, बट उसको रेगुलेट किया जा सकता है. मैं लॉ का हूँ, इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ रेगुलेशन पे हम क्यों नहीं ध्यान दे रहे? हमारे पास अभी तक ऐसा कोई लॉ क्यों नहीं है, बेहतर लॉ क्यों नहीं है जिसमें हम साइबर क्राइम को रेगुलेट किया जा सके? तो वहाँ पे शायद कमी है कि रेगुलेशन नहीं है. हम अगर साइबर क्राइम में पकड़ते भी हैं किसी को तो कहाँ पे ले जाएंगे? फिर वो आईपीसी का सहारा लेंगे हम, और आईपीसी में बहुत सारे साइबर क्राइम्स को हम ज़्यादा जकड़ नहीं पाएंगे. तो हमें एक साइबर क्राइम के लिए एक नया लॉ बनाना पड़ेगा, और कुछ नहीं कर सकते. शायद उससे रेगुलेशन कुछ कम हो जाए, साइबर क्राइम की फ्रीक्वेंसी कुछ कम हो जाए, शायद लोगों को कुछ राहत मिले. दैट इज़ ऑल वी कैन होप. इफ़ यू हैव ए वेरी परफेक्ट लॉ, देन यू कैन होप दैट कि पनिशमेंट है, सब कुछ है, तो शायद डेटरेंट की तरह काम करे, जैसे सामंट्स कहते हैं.
Thank you, sir. Any other queries? From participants, any other queries?
I think most of the participants have went for lunch because we were already.
सर आपने एकदम सही कहा, इसमें कहीं से नहीं पता चल पाता कि कौन एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेंट है कौन.
ये एक ड्रॉबैक है. So anyway.
Well, thank you, sir, for
Thank you,
your
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for
your
giving me the
expertise,
opportunity.
knowledge, and intensive information. Thank you. Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks
So,
a lot. Now, it's time for vote of thanks. A very good afternoon to all our esteemed speakers, participants, and my colleagues. It is my privilege to extend a vote of thanks for this successful 2 days faculty enrichment program organized by Internal Quality Assurance Cell of KB Women's College, Hazaribagh, a constituent unit of Vinoba Bhave University, on higher education with COVID-19 challenges and prospects. So, first of all, I extend hearty vote of thanks to the Honorable Speaker, Professor Kashinath Jina, Department of Political Science, Tripura Central University, Tripura, for his valuable knowledge and information. I would like to extend special thanks to our Honorable Speaker, Dr. Nidhi Pandey, Associate Professor, Balaji University, Pune, Maharashtra, for her critical analysis fully supported with data. The way she explained her topic is exemplary. I would also like welcome, ma'am. I would also like to thank Dr. Sudhanshu Kumar Jha, Assistant Professor, CSE, Department of Electronics and Communication, Faculty of Science, University of Allahabad, for the practical knowledge departed by him about ICT in education. मुझे लगा कि थोड़ा समय और होता तो हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स और भी फ्रूटफुल चीजें लेकर जाते, बट ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ टाइम, surely next time, sir, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our honorable speaker, Dr. B.M. Pandey, sir, Head Department of Law, Tripura Central University, for enlightening us on the topic with his knowledge. We all are really enlightened and awakened with your knowledge. My gratitude to all the speakers for gracing the occasion and sharing their opinions. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path. I may like to express our sincere thanks to our active participants, जैसा कि सर ने कहा, to our active participants without whom this faculty enrichment program was not possible. We have with us participants from more than 16 states of India and even 2 international participants, one from Saudi Arabia and one from Ethiopia. Thanks to all of you once again. I also wish to express my gratitude to our principal, Dr. Rekha Rani, for providing encouragement and support. I am very grateful to my core team members, Ms. Anita Alda, Mrs. Krishna Pradhan, Dr. Anupama Singh, Dr. Shakuntala Kumari, Mrs. Mercy Anjana Tirki, for their help in organizing this program successfully. I may like to thank Shalini Shekhar and Bhushan sir for their 24/7 technical assistance. I express my sincere thanks to Rahul sir for compiling reports for media. I too express my sincere thanks to media for giving an excellent coverage. At last, but not the least, a special thanks to one and all who involved directly and indirectly for their unflinching support and coordination. मैं 2 लाइन बिना कहे तो रह नहीं पाऊंगी। प्यार इतना परायों से मुझको मिला, प्यार इतना परायों से मुझको मिला, ना अपनों से बाकी है कोई गिला। हर चुनौती से 2 हाथ हमने किए, आंधियों में जलाए हैं बुझते दिए। आज झकझोरता तेज तूफान है, नाव भंवरों की बाहों में मेहमान है। पार पाने का कायम मगर हौसला, प्यार इतना परायों से मुझको मिला, ना अपनों से है बाकी कोई गिला। Thanks and have a great day ahead. Please fill the feedback form shared in the WhatsApp group. It is a mandatory condition for issuing an e-certificate. Please fill and submit it today before 5 p.m. आप सभी प्रतिभागियों से नम्र निवेदन है कि व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में दिए हुए फीडबैक फॉर्म को आज शाम 5 बजे से पहले भर दें, ताकि आप सभी का समय पे सर्टिफिकेट प्रदान किया जा सके। आपका सुझाव हमारे लिए बहुमूल्य है। आपका दिन शुभ हो। धन्यवाद। Thank you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, sir. Thanks for participating.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, ma'am.